All right, thanks everybody. Today is March 24th at 6:02 p.m. This is the Finance Committee meeting, and in attendance currently we have myself, Frederick McGovern, Joe, Cheryl, and Tom. So we do have quorum with 4 people. On the agenda for tonight, we have the acceptance of minutes, budget articles, discussion with Scott Returner for the building committee budget, discussion with Steve Haywood for highway budget, discussion with Caesar for IT budget, discussion on wage and personnel amendments, reserve fund transfers, correspondence, public participation calendar, and as may arise. As usual, I like to get the acceptance of minutes out of the way. So if I assume everybody's had a chance to review the minutes that were sent out by Linda. So if somebody would like to make a motion to approve them, we can get this started.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote then for approval. Joe?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So that takes care of the minutes. We have a number of people here to talk about different departmental budgets. So let's get started. I believe Scott's on, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Scott. So why don't you take it away and tell us what you want us to know?
All right. So I've been looking at the structure of our department, and it doesn't really work. So what my proposal is so I've got 2 proposals on the board already. One is to decrease my part-time position. He's a grade, I forget the grade, but he's a step 6. Drop him down to a step 1 and increase one of my grade 4 employees to a grade 8. He's a grade 4 step 6. Bring him up to a grade 8 step 1. There's a minimal increase for that. I would like to further get rid of the part-time guy that was proposed to be dropped down, get rid of him entirely, and to get rid of the 2 summer positions and replace them with a grade 4 full-time position. Grade 4 step 3, I believe, is an $11,000 increase. So I know it's an increase, and there's a kind of a moratorium on increases this year. It gives us year-round help, and the summer guys, they're good, and they're good for painting and for janitorial, but we already cover the janitorial year-round on our own, so that's not really a problem. Other than that, they're mostly good for kind of fluff and puff kind of projects. We need to get back to the meat and potatoes of these buildings. We've got structural issues. We've got real construction needs. So I'd like to get someone else in that's got some experience and some knowledge in that arena. And I think doing this is going to help us with that. And I think it's going to help as opposed to hiring out for, even though it's an increase in our budget, I think it's going to keep us from having to hire out everything to prevailing wage. It kind of goes hand in hand with increasing that other grade 4 position to a grade 8. That person would become like a lead. And then I have 2 guys at grade 4 that would kind of be worker bees underneath him when I'm not available. Some of my time and my focus has been not taken away, but just redirected to the school. And it's going to be helpful to have a guy underneath me and then have a crew underneath him. So that's my idea.
It sounds like, Scott, this is Tom. It sounds like there's you're gonna either job eliminate or dismiss. I heard 1, maybe 2 people. Yeah.
I dismissed the part-time custodian.
Okay.
I dismissed that job entirely.
So are there incumbents? Are there incumbents in those jobs? There's people in the jobs now.
Position?
Yeah.
No, there's only 1 guy there.
Okay. So I guess my question is really to Charlie. Charlie, do you see any collateral expense here on Cobra or any severance, any of that?
I believe that there might be an unemployment expense. Cobra wouldn't go into this because I believe the part-time person works fewer hours.
Okay.
than the-
No insurance.
So at this point, the person who has that part-time position is a retired, he's already retired. I don't believe that, I think he goes to Florida for the winter, and
Mm.
I think he's said to Scott, if you need me, I'll work for you, but if you don't need me, that's okay. Is that correct, Scott?
That is correct, yep.
I mean, it all
Also,
sounds- it all
I
sounds
believe-
logical. I was just curious about the collateral harm here to
His
the budget.
his length of time that he's typically out of state would also eliminate him for the most part from unemployment because of the length of time he's usually gone. He wouldn't be able to
Okay.
claim it.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So I'd probably like to see the actual numbers. I'm sure Sandy can work those up for.
Yeah, I sat down with Scott. He had all the correct figures. Well, I'll make sure that you get those actual numbers. But it was about $11,000 increase. And basically, I told Scott that he should speak with you. I know that the last 2 years, he's been trying to get additional help,
Yeah,
trying to get this to work. And if we do have any money at the end of the day, I think that this would be one of the things that we would want to consider as a priority.
Sure. So Sandy, when we're looking at the FY22 budget that you published today,
Mhm.
and Scott's only up 1.8% in that budget, is that 11,000 in the 16.9 increase that he's got, or it's on top of that?
It would be on top of that.
On top of that. Okay, thanks.
Mm.
anybody else have any other questions for Scott while he's here tonight?
I don't know if you're interested in speaking to him about it now or not, but that is the one piece of correspondence you have for tonight is the notice from Charlie that Scott was asking about a safety gate for the highway barn mezzanine. So while you've got Scott and Steve, that if you have any questions, if you saw that email, that this might be a good time to ask.
Okay, well, do you want to talk to Steve first and then tackle that? Is that?
It's actually
This is
Scott's article.
Scott, all right, so we'll talk to Scott first, because, all right, so if he wants to talk about that correspondence came in
Right.
March 18th, it looks like Thursday,
March
March
18th?
18th. Yep, from Charlie.
Okay. Let me just pull that up so I have it on reference here. Oh, here it is. Oh, that was like for the special.
He said, Charlie said, depending on what the selectmen wanted, either the annual town meeting or the special town meeting, he'd throw the article on for.
Okay,
Right,
Did they-
and he added it in draft. Charlie, you added it in the draft under the annual,
Yeah, I
the
didn't see
last
it.
draft that you sent them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're being flexible about this. I don't think the board's gonna hold me to putting it on the special simply because we're talking about it after. March
Right.
1st.
So
Okay.
it was A46 on the new list I sent out to you.
okay. All right, Scott, why don't you tell us about it?
All right, so basically at the town barn, in the section of the barn that has the mechanics bays with a lift and all that, there's an overhead section that goes over the break room, the offices, things like that, that's currently used for storage. Always been used for storage. It's always had a couple of removable boards to let things get put up there with the loader or fork truck or whatever they use. And after they're done moving stuff in and out, they put the boards back in place. We are now an OSHA state in the town, so we need to abide by their rules. They came in, they said, that's not allowable. We need more of a positive personnel safety system up there. So what we're looking at is a retractable gate that will allow us to continue using it for storage. The fire department's got some stuff that they would store up there. And if it prolongs the life of their equipment, then for for a little bit of money, I think it's worth it. I think I put in 6,000 in the article. That's a little bit inflated because I think the purchase of the gate, I think we're gonna have to do some framework to support the weight of it and things like that. So I left a little bit of wiggle room in there for that. But that's basically what it is. It's a manual. I didn't get the electric. I'm not looking at the electric. It'd be a manual gate that slides out of the way. You do what you gotta do and you slide the gate back, cover the opening.
Okay, so Sandy, you got this at 6,500.
Right, I took that from Charlie's warrant, but 6,000 was the original figure that I had when I had it on the special. And I thought I did think we had talked about it last week, because I also
Yeah.
put that you recommended it, so.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. So,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
It could-
Yeah,
so we
so-
recommended it 6,000, so Scott, is 6,000 gonna be enough?
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying is, I don't have all that in front of me because I didn't see that on the list for tonight. But I think 6,000 would be enough. I've got some extra room in my budget this year. Oh, this will be for the next year. Yeah, 6,000 would be enough. We can cover any of the incidentals. That's fine. Keep it at 6,000.
yeah, because I thought, yeah, we did cover this before, because again, we looked at it and it's a safety issue. And I'm pretty sure the thought process is, okay, safety, we kind of
I'll
like,
do it. Yeah.
yeah, so.
Right.
All righty.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
next up is Steve Haywood from the Highway.
Hello,
Hi, Steve, how are you doing tonight?
good yourself?
Great. So what do you got on your agenda for tonight to want to talk to us about?
It's about the traffic safety committee. When we level funded, I messed up and we wanted to start a new line item or add to one of my lines for signs, solar lights, anything to do with the traffic safety, solar lights and signs. I have prices for how much it's actually costing the highway department to get all these signs, and it's kind of more than what I thought it would be.
So I believe what he's discussing is the crosswalks, the new crosswalks that we
Yep.
put in with the last town meeting article.
Yep,
And there's maintenance to those. He does have a traffic lights line item, which we level funded. And I think he is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but he'd like to increase that traffic line by how much, Steve?
That's what I was talking about. Just to fix the 2 light crosswalks at the police station, that cost us $916. That's just for those 2 lights to buy 2 batteries and the labor. So I just installed 4 more sets of crosswalks. We're not going to have any problems yet, but I'm thinking of the future, and we should start putting money in an account or add to mine for the repairs of those.
so do we have an idea how much you would be looking to increase the account? Like, they would
Well,
be,
the whole thing is the traffic safety wanted to start their own account,
okay,
and I'm not sure if that's how we should really go about it. I think it would make it easier. But throwing all the numbers together, that all these the speed limit signs, what else was there? The speed limits, yields, stop signs, thickly settled. I'll just give you some prices so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
To get one stop sign complete is $110.25. A yield sign is $124.50. A speed limit sign is $107. So for how many I've been putting out, basically stop signs is about $441 a year. Yield, we only get maybe 1 or 2 of those every couple years, but that would be say $249 for 2. The speed limit signs, we put out about 8 or more a year. That's $856. And thickly settled, I do about they asked to have us put out at least 4 a year, which is $441.
But Steve, that's regular street signs, correct?
Right, but
Like a
it's,
stop sign or a yield sign. And hasn't that always been covered under your town roads budget?
that's how it has been. But what we were talking about at the traffic safety committee is that's fine for street signs for like the names. But most of the stuff that I've been asked to put out since I've got in this position is all this from the traffic safety committee. So that's why we're talking about starting a whole different line item for that. And now we're being asked to buy the solar flashing lights, which will be speed limits that flash when you go by them. And those themselves are $2,500. That's constant flash. If you want a vehicle activated one, it's $3,000 a piece. And people think that I have the money in the budget for all this, but I don't. So that's why we want to start another account for traffic safety, and that's where that money would come out of. It would only be able to do maybe 1 or 2 a year.
I think that something like that would be an article,
Yeah.
something like a new flashing. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think something like that, because that's a one-time cost to put up a new speed limit sign that flashes and detects the speed and everything. That would be an article, wouldn't it?
Well, we could divide it into two areas. First of all, he has maintenance costs and such. You know, if he has to replace batteries or things like that,
Yeah.
it's going to come out of some line item. But then there's the capital costs that you're mentioning. And, you know, it's sort of like with police cars. Well, obviously, you know, a different number of zeros. But I think Steve's intent or Steve's expectation is that he's going to be buying 1 or 2 or whatever every single year. And, or, you know, then the question becomes, do we have an article for this every single year? Or do we establish a line item because it's a much smaller amount than the police cars that helps pay for an additional 1 of these or 2 of these every year, along with the maintenance costs? I mean, I would think maintenance costs, everything should fall just generally under the highway budget. You mentioned, you know, the roads line item or something like that. But if Steve can show that he's spending an abnormal amount of money due to the requests, then we spin it off. But that also means that Steve has, you know, there's a commitment there that we're going to respond to those requests in that, whatever the signs are, so that there's some organization behind the request and putting everything up on some, you know, some sort of basis, in the sense of Steve can't then say, well, I don't have the money for this. Well, he now has a line item for this, and we need to fund it appropriately if we're going to have a line item and put sufficient money in there. It's not going to be used for any other purpose. What it means is that if Joe or Mary calls up and says, hey, I need a sign here, then we've got a line item, we've got money to designate it specifically for that reason. We can't say that we don't have the money.
Also, I'm not saying I'm going to put up a sign every time somebody asks for a sign, because there's certain rules I have to follow to be able to put certain thickly settled signs up, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm just going to spend all kinds of money when somebody just says we need a sign. It's got to go through the proper channels to get that sign.
So if I could clarify, it sounds like all of that activity now gets buried in 3 line items that, you know, 83, 85, and 86, which is about, I don't know, $93,000. So if we create another line item for traffic safety, I presume some of that activity we're going to pull out of these lines, but it's going to be a net increase so that Steve can do what he needs to do. But wouldn't we need to see just we take these 3 lines, some portion of these 3 lines have got to go into funding that traffic safety line, because that's what it's been doing historically.
Right.
And then we increase that line so Steve's got enough. Is that kind of the ask here, Steve?
Basically, yes.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
And that's only if there's extra money. I don't want to take away from something else that needs it.
Okay,
Thanks,
all
Steve.
right. All right, if nobody else has anything, I've written all this down and we can talk about this at a later point after we've basically looked at the schools and see what has left. So thanks for coming in, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, do you want me to actually put all numbers together to show you how much I've spent in signs and
Yep,
and stuff,
It-
and then send it
yep.
to you guys?
Yeah,
anything to justify makes my life easier,
Okay.
especially because that way, if somebody asks at town meeting, I can pull out a piece of paper and say, this is what Steve's talking about, because
I mean, it sounds like, this public works section, it sounds like between Scott and Steve, it's getting rejiggered pretty dramatically, right? We're gonna go to about, if we do what Scott needs to do, it's gonna take it up from, 2% to about 3.5%. And then we see what Steve needs to do here to get these done. But it sounds like with the rejiggering of the line items, we need to almost see a new budget in this section.
yeah.
I mean, I understand, like, if we're gonna start putting articles on, like with the crosswalks and stuff like that, then there should be some expectation that, okay, we're adding stuff that's not really in his maintenance budget. We
Right.
might want to consider adding the additional costs to do the maintenance for the stuff that is getting approved in the articles. So I
Sure.
definitely understand that portion of it. I just don't know what's going to be left this year, so.
Right.
So
All right.
that's unfortunately where we are right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
All right, thanks a lot, Steve.
All right, have a good night. Thank you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Okay, next up, Caesar.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Caesar.
How are you guys?
Yeah, welcome back.
Oh, yes. There are actually a few changes. I have a few updates and changes. I realized that the budget amount that you guys had last time, my current wage was different, so I had to change that. I got my step increase, so I updated that total. But part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys today was because I also, in addition to Scott, have an increase request for my hours. Right now, I'm working 25 hours a week, pretty much doing everything I can as fast as I can and as efficiently as I can, but it's getting hard. My responsibilities have grown since the position was first started. My user base, user management responsibility has grown to every single board and committee member that the town has, elected, volunteer, appointed. I'm supporting police and fire at this point at a bare minimum level, but it has potential and probably will grow. Future planning, if we're thinking about document management, having a part-time person to support that's going to be difficult. I'm not saying that we're doing it completely this year, but it's just getting very tough. There's not enough hours in the day. I dedicate 5 hours out of the 25 a week towards updates because I have to, otherwise I wouldn't get done. At this point, I'm within the next couple hours, I'll be maxed out for the week. And there's like 10,000 items that are on my to-do list, and I just can't keep up. So I'm looking to get 40 hours. That's what the position needs. We're not at, I don't think the town's at a point in its time that it can sustain a part-time IT person while maintaining all the services that they're trying to implement.
I'm zooming, Tracy. Bye.
Chairman,
Okay,
Fred,
I definitely see we have a number of items for articles, so I can definitely see the need.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think Caesar makes a good point. Yeah, much of what we've been looking to do to improve this year has been around the stuff that Caesar needs to bring into fruition.
I think for me, it takes time for me to digest anything that like is proposed. Um, my response is I think we have like between either Monday and today or between last week and today, we've got sort of like just shy of $1.5 million worth of articles that we sort of haven't reviewed yet. So I think we might end up, I mean, at least, well, I can speak for myself. If we end up reviewing them, I might have like some critical feedback on some items, and obviously some will get approved and, you know, maybe some won't. But just if, and when we do that, if I do, I'm going through that and I am critical on any items. It's not that I'm trying to come across as like the Grinch who stole Christmas or anything. It's just that I don't want to put anything in the position where we have to raise an appropriate more money from the town, since that's not going to be fair to the taxpayers. But I mean, obviously, Caesar, thanks for bringing the concern or request to the table, and I think we'll obviously all think about what you just asked.
So Sandy, could you get us, or Charlie, could you get us what the increase in what that increase would be, basically, if we were to increase Caesar from 25 to 40 hours? Let's see the change in.
I do have that total. The total amount at my new step that should take, I think it takes, it's already in effect, I think. Charlie can answer that. Would be a $19,125.60
Increase?
annually.
Because we do have town employees that make less than that per year.
And that's the 15-hour increase?
No, it's a 15-hour increase. I got 19.5 just spitballing it, so we were.
Yeah.
Fred, just speaking as Caesar's direct report, the biggest thing to me is simply the increase in the number of people that he needs to deal with. Obviously, he's dealing with more departments. He's mentioned fire and police. And we weren't, when we started this out several years ago, that really wasn't the case. But the sheer volume of the number of people he needs to be working with has dramatically increased, not just on terms of email, but in terms for the folks who are in the offices and all the buildings, it's far greater. We believe we started at 20 back on the first year. We moved it to 25, and that's where it's been sitting now for several years. Obviously, I'm very cognizant of the town's the restraint we have to place on our finances, given what our revenue picture is. But if the Finance Committee is going to consider increasing hours for any position, I really hope that they will look at this very seriously. I mean, if we can't do 40, do something more than what we've got at 25.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that too. Like if we just don't have it this year, even if we could get 5 hours, you know, and then revisit it next year and see if we can get back up to 40 at that point. Because this next year, I would think when it's really going to hit, when, you know, if we do approve like the document management, permitting, digitalization, the asset management system, I just don't see how he's going to fit that in at 25 hours work. So it's almost like if you approve the articles, you better approve this, because they're kind of tied together.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else, Caesar?
I do have a few updates on what did I have? Oh, I already told you the update. My step increase. I'll give that information to Sandy. She can, and Linda, and they can pass it along.
Have it, Lisa.
Oh, never mind then. She's all set. That's it. That was the other update.
Okay.
I'm all set. I appreciate you guys listening. You know, and like I said, I anything you guys can do is appreciated. It's not just me, but you know, town employees will definitely benefit from it. It's tough not being able to get back to people because I'm not working. You know, I'll get any number of phone calls and text messages with vendors and stuff, and it's always after hours. I don't mind answering the calls, but at some point, I think we need to realize that it is a full-time responsibility. More than full-time, it's a 24/7 responsibility, making sure everything's up and running. There's a lot of behind the scenes, and if you guys can consider it, I'd greatly much appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you,
Of course.
Caesar.
Thanks, Caesar.
You guys have a great day. Enjoy your night. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You
brother.
too.
Bye.
Okay, so that concludes our discussions with Scott, Steve, and Caesar tonight. So before we get into the budget and the articles that we kind of went through on Monday, do we have any wage and personnel amendments or anything to talk about?
I've got it, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
And any reserve fund transfers?
Nope.
And other than that, one correspondence regarding the Ocean Gate, that's it? Is that right?
That's all we had.
All right, then. So let's get back into our budget discussions. Monday night, we had a number of people. Matt was very kind enough to give us a lot of detailed information regarding a number of these articles. He also sent over pictures with regards to the tennis courts and some other information with regards to square footage for the kindergarten entrance and the HES kitchen flooring and that sort of stuff. So I'd like to circle back, if nobody has any objections, and see if we want to move on from the ones that we have hold for info. Does anybody have any?
Fred, the only, so I got all those square footages, and based on the square footages, everything looks great. As a matter of fact, the ceiling of the parking lot is a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
You know, at 25 grand, if that's 54,000 square feet, that's amazing, including lining. So that's a no-brainer. The access road is great, 5,400 square feet, about $5.50 a square foot for that work. That's good. Everything there is good. The kitchen floor makes sense. $23,000 for 1,500 square feet of lino, welded lino. Makes perfect sense. The one that I still am struggling with heavily
Go ahead.
is the hall flooring is 839 feet.
Yeah, I was like, I looked at that, I'm like, what?
It's the same cost per square foot for VCT versus welded lino. That you should pay no more than $5, and that includes removal and install with no furniture in the way.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what they're doing at 12 grand for 800 feet of VCT. It should be $5 grand.
Okay, I think, and I was not here for when Matt was here, but is this not where they were talking about putting the carpet tiles? Like they have at the entrance?
So they said carpet tiles, but then they flipped back, Sandy, and said, no, not carpet tiles there. We're just doing VCT there.
Right.
All right, when we had the tour of the school, I thought that they had said carpet tiles, so I'm lost then.
So it's the kindergarten hallway. So if it's carpet tile, that makes a little bit more sense to me.
Okay,
Right. But even then it's, 839 feet is only 100 yards at, $30 a yard for a middle of the road carpet tile installed is only $3 grand.
Mhm.
oh, really?
I don't know where he's coming up with. I don't know where he's coming up with $12,000.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I would say hold that one and let's ask him for more specifics. See if we can
Yeah.
get the actual.
I mean, if you're gonna ask
quote that
for,
he got.
if you're gonna ask for specifics, have them break out the removal, have them break out the installation and the materials, and tell us what the materials are.
Those pictures you sent on the tennis courts were helpful because if any students or anybody's using those tennis courts, it clearly shows the crack and everything. That was nice.
What's that, Drew?
The pictures Matt sent on the tennis courts were really helpful.
Oh, yeah. That looks like a crater.
Yeah.
That was easy.
That's
It's that, I mean, I know it's small money, all in all, it goes from 12 to, it shouldn't be any more than, even if they were figuring in some floor prep, for that area. I mean, you 800 feet is another $1,000 worth of prep. So it should be no more than $5,000 or $6,000 if it's just VCT. Even if
Okay.
even if it's carpet, it still should be about the same because the prep's even less.
Right. Like I said, I did not get any paperwork on that one yet. As far as where they got the quote, I did get a couple of things he sent in. And you probably have seen it, the estimate for the kitchen floor and for the asphalt. But I haven't seen that one yet, so I'll
Yeah,
get that.
The kitchen floor looks good. I mean, there's a lot of
Okay.
stuff in there. They're gonna have to remove it, prep it, put welded
Mhm.
lino down. It's $15.90 a square foot. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But the other way, it's $14.30 a square foot for VCT.
Okay.
It makes no sense.
All right, we'll find out.
Okay, so let's start at the A14, which is the HES reseal the parking lot. It sounds like, based on the numbers, Joe thinks this is a bargain, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody have any other comments or discussions they want to talk about before we, bring this up for a vote?
Is this the elementary school parking lot?
What's that, Drew?
This is the HES parking lot?
This is the HES, yeah. They want to reseal the parking lot. What was the square footage, Joe? I don't have the exact number.
54,000 square feet.
Yeah, it was quite big, so.
I think over the last few years, we paved the roads. I live with my dad in front of Montponce, on Montponce Street. Someone paved some Montponce Street within the last few years, I think.
And
Yeah, I'm not following.
Oh, I'm trying to picture the parking lot. I'm not sure how.
Oh, yeah, at the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Not that I'm like the best at staying aware of stuff. For a while there, I was getting like a flat tire. Like I got like 4 flat tires in my car before I switched out the tires because I kept running over potholes because I don't always pay attention.
so it's literally like you come in, I mean, it's right next, you have two entrances. You have the one that comes in that goes to the library, and literally right next to it is the entrance that goes into the school.
Okay. Yeah. For
So
sure.
from there, like all the way down, and around, right? All the way down to the new paved, the new section that they did. So
real quick,
Yes.
Fred, and I don't mean to jump in here. Sandy, I looked at what you just sent us, right?
I just sent it.
I mean, oh, sorry, Linda, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
read-
okay. Matt just sent it late this afternoon and I just saw it and sent it forwarded to you because it answered
So
some of the
now
stuff.
I'm really confused because
Yeah.
the article is asking for $12,000 and the biggest quote I see is $1,400.
Yeah. And I think it says it was for like 108 square feet or something in the quote.
135 square feet of VCT in that area is $1,300, which is great. I mean, that's actually a great price. And then if they decided to do carpet instead of the VCT, it's only $1,482. I don't know where the 12,000 on the article is coming from.
Okay, so what are we changing the amount to? Do you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The
So-
article for A17 reads replace hallway flooring.
Right,
The estimates are talking about the kindergarten entrance.
that's the part of the hallway flooring that they're replacing at the kindergarten entrance. Not all the hallway flooring, just the part at the kindergarten entrance.
So that's what I mean. I guess the article calls for asking for $12,000.
and they've got 2774.
No. It's
Oh,
an
no.
either or option.
Yeah.
So it's either VCT for 12 something or
Yeah.
carpet for 1480.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So that's
either
like,
way,
that's $10,000 off of what the article's asking for.
Yeah.
All right, Linda, I don't think, did you send me that email?
Yep, I just CC'd you on it. I think
Sounds
that's
like
why.
it should be more like $1,500, right,
Right.
Tim?
At the most,
At the most, yeah.
yeah.
I
Because the
unfortunately
kitchen,
couldn't get into my computer, so I don't have that, but you're saying 1,400 at the most?
1,500 at the most.
Yeah, around.
Sandy, let me,
Yeah, the most expensive option came to $1,482.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
that's what
in
the
the part
12,000.
that the part that I
All
was
right,
a little
so
confused
the
at
prices
is
that
that,
I got, I had gotten from when Gordon originally sent his memo asking for this, but we can absolutely change that.
I mean,
I sent,
maybe,
I just sent an email to Matt to just to have him come back with see if he's got a better answer, but Sandy had asked earlier, and that's why Matt is sending that list to you that I just forwarded, because the numbers she got were from Gordon, and we wanted to just verify that that matched up to
Right.
the quotes that Matt had because of the confusion when Gordon had flip-flopped those other two numbers with Sandy, the 23,000 and the 30,000.
Right.
So this was what Matt sent in response to that, because I said, can you just send us all the quotes for each of those articles?
yeah, because the kitchen matches up. It's asking for
Right.
23,165. We got 30,000 in the article right now, so why are they asking for $6,000 more? I'm not sure. Because the quote
Yep.
shows 23,1.
Yep.
The only thing I could think of is they're asking for a little bit more money because the quote doesn't reflect moving all the stuff out of the kitchen.
I think that's what's
Yeah, that
happening
could
on
be.
that one.
Actually,
No,
they
I'm
mentioned that the last time I talked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm
so
not
that's
overly
good,
concerned about that one. No.
right? The paving's good, the crack sealing and the seal coating, the park, and then the sidewalk around is matches up. It's 22,300. They're asking for 23,000. Makes sense, right? But I know it's small money. It's the smallest of all the articles, but I have no clue where they came up with 12,000.
I think there might be a couple like that because I remember when you were talking about windows and stuff, I tried to Google, I saw 90,000 for Pope's Tavern windows. I forget what I was looking at, like a home advisor recommendation. They're like $650 per window or something like that.
Not for custom double
These
thick
are all the
windows.
bigger
They're all custom
windows.
windows, Drew, in that building. Yeah, that was definitely where that came from.
up.
Right.
What's the right procedure here? To approve a lower number or to go back and challenge the number that they have?
Well, we have time. I would challenge it.
Yeah, I would just
Yeah.
send Matt and Drew an email and say, look, your article says 12,000 for the hallway flooring. We're looking at the quotes, and the biggest one, if you went to carpet, was $1,500.
Right.
Why are you asking for $11,000 more?
Mm.
Yeah, I could do that tomorrow. I can verify that amount. Linda, would
Here's
you
the
send
thing
me
that I
again?
think, Sandy, I bet you this is what happened. If the fingers got fat and you added an extra zero, that might be why,
Yeah.
That might be, yeah.
right? Because if you look at the quote from VCT, right, it was what, 1292. So for them to ask for $1,200 would make sense. Maybe they can get the $92, whatever.
Right.
But
That could have
maybe
been, that could have been what happened.
yeah.
Yep.
Just a
All right, so
test.
I'm all for, we keep the hallway flooring on hold for now, waiting
Yeah.
for more information. All right,
Right.
so getting back to the resale of the parking lot, would somebody like to make a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we're going to be voting yes or no, and it's going to be for the HES resale of the parking lot in the amount of $25,000. So why don't we start? We'll do a roll call. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew.
I was going to abstain. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really want to be on the wrong end of this one. On the one hand, I'm trying to picture the parking lot. I don't see any like potholes or anything. On the other hand, I'm not always the most knowledgeable person, I guess. So like if something's going to increase the lifespan of it versus not increasing the lifespan of it. I mean, I guess I'm going to be the negative Nancy and vote no, but I don't know. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of it.
But that's fine. And then I'll vote yes. So we have a 4 to 1 vote, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one passes. The next one is the add exterior lights to the HES campus. I see that's $100,000 based on that email.
All right, I didn't have that figure, 100,000.
Yeah, that's what they're
And that's
saying.
for what, That's actually the one that Matt said the other night he thought was not going to be that expensive because he thought
Yeah.
it was just a couple poles and they
Right.
could add to the hub.
It's like, it says here, exterior lighting, $100,000 when assessed with Scott Returner in the Greens Committee. Scott and I discussed this and we are in agreement that a substantial amount of light will be added to the HES parking area by replacing the single fixture pole lights with three fixture top on two parking lot poles. This can be accomplished through the school operating budget. Okay, $100,000, then I'm a little concerned with the school operating budget. I'm also concerned with the fact that has anybody actually asked, I mean, like the local residents, and we don't want to be like lighting this up like an airport here.
Yeah,
Right.
you got people, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And you
Mhm.
got neighbors right across the street.
Yeah, you
Right,
do.
I mean, I've been to the school for many, many years for Cub Scouts and
Plenty of
basketball
lighting.
and everything else, and I've never had a problem.
Hmm.
And at $100,000, you know.
That,
Not this year.
that's 0 cents to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me too.
0. How many light fixtures?
They're
3?
saying,
Three.
they're replacing the single fixture pole lights with three fixture tops with a fixture top on two parking lot poles, a three fixture top on two.
$100,000?
Hey, guys,
Yeah.
can I interject something here? It's Scott Materna.
Yeah,
Hi,
Scott.
Scott.
Hi. So there was a bit of a wish list from the school, and they were asking to add some light poles down the center of the employee parking area that leads like towards the gym. It's kind of like an island. I don't know if that describes it well. And they also wanted to add some lighting at each entrance and to parking lot areas, and add some lighting to the signs out front. So we brought in an electrician because it's bigger than I can handle, and an excavator. Once they started putting all the numbers together, the number became unexpectedly high.
Mm.
So Matt called me, we were talking about it, and I said, well, why don't we just, Matt was saying, well, can we add lights to the building to accomplish this? I said, yeah, but that's going to be pointing, to get them to light up the parking lot, you can be aiming them at 106. You're going to light up drivers, you're going to light up residents.
Mhm.
Well, what's the difference with a pole light? You're gonna be coming up there and it's gonna be
Well, it's
absolutely
down lights.
blinding.
But
So
it's
yeah,
down
the
lights.
pole light, the pole light would be aimed more down as opposed to more horizontal.
Yeah.
To reach out from the building to
Yeah.
get to the far side of the parking lot, it's more horizontal. So we can replace the heads that are up there potentially. We haven't seen what the wires are yet, what load they'll handle, but I'm thinking that we can probably replace them with 2 or 3 heads at each location instead of a single head, which now radiates light horizontally as well as down. It's not directed, it's just a lantern. So now if we direct that light more downward, the same amount of light, just more focused in a down direction, I think is going to help a lot.
So Scott, I guess the way I'm reading the email, because the one that Linda just sent has Matt's original email with all these different breakouts, and it basically says $100,000 to not put any new poles in, but basically just replace
New heads.
new heads on
Yeah.
on 2 parking lot poles.
That's good. I get it. I have to believe that that's a typo or just a miscommunication.
Okay.
Because the $100,000, we were starting to get north of the $100,000 mark when we were talking about bringing an electrician in to add those additional locations and with the excavation and all that
Yeah.
work.
Which would
So
make sense if you were adding light poles in that parking lot, and you had to excavate, you had to run new conduits, you had to run all that stuff. That $100,000 would make a little bit more sense. But if the
Yeah.
article for this is to just replace 2 light poles with, instead of 1 down light, you're putting 3 on it, a couple $1,000 probably at that point,
Yep.
which makes sense. And just while I'm reading the email, this is the first time I saw it because I scrolled down a little bit more, Sandy. Just when you're in your email to them, the kindergarten floor right here in his email says $2,700. But what he's doing is,
4,700.
yeah,
But that's-
$2,774.95. But it's
That's
for
for-
both quotes.
Right.
So is he putting the VCT down and then putting the carpet on top of it? Makes sense. But just be
Right.
sure with them which one it is.
I will. Yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
Okay, so do we want to wait and find out if that number is correct, or
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with 100,000, that's for sure.
No.
Mm-mm.
Could I,
All right, so
could I ask an ordering question too, just to check?
sure,
Are we gonna reseal the parking lot and then cut it for new lights?
good point.
Yeah,
We would
I hope
probably.
I think your
Yeah, the last-
sequence at that point would have to change.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the last time I talked to Matt, the thought was to just use the existing poles and to reconfigure the lighting on the top of the pole.
Put new heads on.
Yeah.
That's,
So we just need that
Scott,
number.
did you have
instead
a
of
figure
11.
for that?
I don't, because I don't know what kind of light he's looking for. You know, how much
Okay.
brighter he's looking to make it. I think he's going to be using the light pole that we have to light to replace at the library. I think he's going to use that as a kind of as a judgment. You know, kind of look at that and see how bright it is, and see if he wants to follow suit or go something different.
Okay.
But I think, the 100,000 is out the window.
Yeah, I would just keep holding that one.
Yep. Okay, so next on the list is everybody's favorite kitchen, or replace the kitchen floor. Unless anybody has some questions, I think we can move right on to having somebody make a motion to approve this one in the amount of $30,000.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so again, a yes or a no vote, a roll call for A16, replace kitchen flooring in the amount of $30,000. Start with Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
yes.
Drew? Drew, you there?
I am here.
We're talking about replacing the kitchen flooring.
Okay, I will go with the flow and, okay, yeah, I'll vote yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes too, so that is a 5-0 vote for approval. Next one is replace the hallway flooring, and I believe we're all set on waiting to get the correct number because that
Agreed.
definitely looks incorrect.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is the install the access road to the HES campus, and this is in the amount of $23,000. So do you want to talk about this one? Everybody's feelings on this one.
This one makes sense based on the square footage I saw. $5.50 a square foot to roll around the building makes sense for the dollars.
Yeah.
It's a big ADA
You
improvement.
just gotta vote whether you feel it's necessary. Makes sense from the presentation that Matt was talking about, that this is perfect sense.
Yep.
You know, so
And
Yeah.
Tom's got a good point too with the ADA.
yeah, exactly.
Right, so does anybody have any other concerns or things they want to talk about? Or should we just move on for a vote for this one?
I didn't even grow up in Halifax, so it's tough for me. I mean, in grade school.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion for A18, install the access road to the HES campus in the amount of $23,000?
Yes, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote then. Joe,
yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
myself a yes. So that passes in a 5-0 vote. The next one is A19, the install central air conditioning in the tech lab and art room. The requested amount was $15,000. We did get an email that kind of listed that out a little bit more. It was in the 14 something range. So that number looked correct. It was 14,237 verbal quote.
And with that, Charlie, would it be possible for us to for the school to get reimbursed from the money Biden sending? Do we know?
I lost track of which article we're talking about.
We're talking about A19, the install the central air conditioning.
It's possible. I mean, as we were talking about, the chair and I were talking about before the meeting began, there are several pots of money that are going to come out of the American Rescue Act. There's a school pot. We don't even that and also the money that's coming directly to the town side. We don't have a lot of information yet as to what can be funded out of those pots. I don't think we have any, we can't spend CARES money that, well, actually, I think we can, sorry. But I think we've used up our allocation in terms of ask for reimbursements. So I can't give you an answer right now. I'm hoping, sometime in the next month, we'll get details from the US Treasury Department on all these pots of money, the town pot, school pot, everything else. But until then, I can't give you a definitive answer.
Do you think we'd know by town meeting?
I'm hoping. That's all I can give you.
Well, the way I look at this, it's, I always prioritize safety first, and that safety of personnel and safety of equipment too. And the way I look at it, if you're not cooling your servers, you're opening yourself up to a much higher cost when you have to replace the server.
That is true.
So when I look at $15,000, I'm like, this is preventative maintenance.
We have AC, for instance, specifically for the server room here at Town Hall.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not a COVID thing or anything like that. So again, it's going to depend on what the feds say we can spend money on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I don't know if it qualifies. I know in ARA, in an earlier draft, there was a big provision for air handling in schools.
Right.
So maybe it'll come under that. But I think it's worth it on its face and on the reasons that Fred says. And then if we have the happy circumstance of getting it back, that's great.
Yeah, I think based on Matt's presentation the other day too.
I agree with that, Pat. Just curious.
A quick question, Charlie. Gordon mentioned that we don't have summer school in Halifax, so they're being sent to another school, and that it would allow us to have summer school. Is there a cost savings because we don't have to send the students over to like Dennett or Kingston for summer school, and that they can stay?
Certainly transport.
Right, that's what I was thinking too.
So I mean, we're working backwards. So the idea is, if we get air conditioning, we can have summer school here and not have to transport the kids.
Right.
I would have to imagine there is. I don't know if it's specific to Halifax or if it's a district-wide cost. We have to check to see, because I wasn't even aware that we had kids going to summer school and we transported them.
They go to Plimpton, and I don't know that we transport them. I think summer school, I don't think there's a bus for summer school.
No,
Not that I remember anything.
there isn't.
My
Okay.
understanding is
Sorry,
they go
my
to
bad.
Plimpton, but they're transported by the parent.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, hey, if we're saving some money
That
there,
would be nice.
then we're actually, it's paying for itself over time kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
But
right, well,
maybe there's something behind it where the state gives you something if you offer summer school. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
but I mean, to me, the safety issue, just
Yeah.
saving the server was number one. But I was saying, hey, if I can even get some cost savings, that's even an extra bonus. So let's move on and say, okay, A19, install central air conditioning in the tech lab and our room for $15,000. Would somebody like to make the motion for that one?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote then for yay or nay. We'll start with Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew.
Yeah, my commentary, I agree with everything that's said so far about looking into pots, because that makes a lot of sense. And then obviously it's getting hotter, especially in the summer. Yeah, I mean, obviously the low cost version of it would be if someone just installed like a window air conditioning, but that's really, I mean, that's here or there. Like,
Cost effective.
Now when I got expensive servers that can get
Yeah,
ripped
you
off
don't
inside.
want to do that. All right, and so you're a yes, right, Drew?
yeah.
Okay, and then myself is a yes as well. So that one passes 5-0. The next on my list is the Silver Lake Regional Tennis Court repair in the amount of $105,000, and I'm struggling with this one. So
Yeah, me too.
I love the comment that Matt made. Oh yeah, Halifax residents can come and use the courts. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't they just use the courts in town?
Right.
They're not a good.
And does the school
Ours
have,
are worse.
do they have a tennis team?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is everybody's thoughts with regards to that? I mean, I looked at the pictures.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it looks
super
bad,
offended
but
by it, but because I like that it's this one is split between the three towns. So I mean,
that's our
obviously, it's also not.
portion.
So I understand what you're saying. But I'm not super offended by things being split between the three towns. I know we've approved some Halifax expenses that have gone to Halifax only, so I don't know. I can see there seems to be some sort of inconsistency, but I'm not so offended by it.
Yeah, well, I am when I have to
I'm
present
not.
a 5.9% budget increase, and then they want $105,000 on top
No,
of
it's
it.
for a tennis court, yeah.
Fred, one thing to consider, I'm not saying it's for or against, but I think it was Sandy probably at one of the meetings, or maybe it was somebody else at the other previous meeting, pointed out that when we had the divorce settlement with Pembroke and the assessments were, we had budgeted and improved the assessments that year. We didn't spend all the money because in essence, Pembroke funded, gave her, the divorce settlement funded the assessments for the three towns to some extent that year. And what we did was put our remaining money that we didn't spend for Silver Lake into the stabilization fund and said, with the intent to say, that's going to be for capital projects at Silver Lake. Now, whether this is the best use of that money is a different question. But, you know, I hadn't remembered that we had done that until somebody mentioned a couple of days ago. And I didn't like the idea that Silver Lake was basically, you know, hey, okay, you're going to pay this assessment. Oh, by the way, we've got this assessment for the tennis courts. Oh, and by the way, patrol, you know, that resource officer we kept forgetting to put in the budget.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now we've got another article.
It's starting to get out of hand.
Right. But the tennis courts at least would have a source of funding if the town wanted to go ahead with its share of the project. So I'm not, again, that's not a for or against. It's simply in terms of a source of funding. It doesn't necessarily have to compete with all the other articles or the
Yeah, my concern is, are they going to be fixing, did they fix or are they fixing the Silver Lake roof? Because they're going to come back and want money for that.
Yeah, I think they did, right? Like 3 years ago, right? The elementary school roof.
The elementary school we did.
Right.
Right.
Halifax did
But
that.
I believe that Gordon said that they found the warranty. They have made the corrections that they had to do to get it back under the warranty. So any work on it now will be covered under the warranty on the Silver Lake roof. That's what Gordon had told me. I certainly can verify
How
it.
old's the
The amount of
roof?
money that Charlie was talking about from the assessment was 312,000 that we had put in the stabilization, sort of earmarking it for Silver Lake. This is 105,000, and my recommendation was to take it from that stabilization money.
Yeah, I mean, if we did it, that would be my recommendation too.
I mean,
I'm just concerned, are there other big expenses coming down the road?
I mean, you know, my opinion in this, again, my opinion's my opinion, but looking at these pictures, being up there a couple of weeks ago, I was actually up to the school and right on the tennis courts. If you don't replace this tennis court, not shut it down, you're in for some problem. You're gonna have a lawsuit on your hands.
Good point.
You're gonna have a lawsuit.
That's why I'm having trouble, Joe.
Yeah,
Because on one hand, I look at it and say, this is a safety issue, and what did I just say? Safety always
Yeah.
goes to the top.
so if we
At the
don't
same-
have, if
At
it
the same
doesn't get
point, I'm
approved,
like, there's
yeah,
so
if
much
it-
money the schools want, and it's like, how do I go back to the town and say, you know, they want 5.9% for this and $100,000 for this, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, when is,
I get it. I know I know what you're struggling with, but
Yeah.
like my opinion is either replace it and do it or shut it down.
And do we presently have a tennis team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing?
yes, we do, yeah,
We have one playing. They're playing right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the
As far as I
play can also be something a little different too, right? I mean, the appropriation of 105,000 from Halifax for this is based on the percentages that we pay based on being part of Silver Lake, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So why not say, look, the town of Halifax has its own tennis courts. We get we're part of Silver Lake, we're not gonna give you 105 grand, but we'll give you 75 grand.
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I wish we could make up the numbers.
Right.
Fred, I mean,
Right.
Fred, you made great points before about, why are we paying for the revenue loss on the football team in the operating budget?
Right.
When, like hold a bake sale, fix the football team on that side. Is this the place, since we have a source of funding, maybe this is the place to give, but we really got to press hard on the 700 and plus thousand we got in the school budget. It's half of our increase that we can't.
And I haven't seen the school
Right.
budget. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me. If they're gonna come back and say, oh, we want you to pay for like, oh, we have a new football coach and that's $30,000 more. This is when I start having problems.
Yeah.
So
Because
don't we
like you
sit
want
on
to
this
talk
and,
about academics and not cutting
More
teachers,
important
that's
than
one
this.
thing, but we need to like start massively compensating our athletic department for lost revenue because people couldn't go to
Right.
games.
right?
I'm not asking my seniors to do that. I'm not asking my seniors
No.
to pay for that. So
So shouldn't we hold this and not look at it holistically? Like, let's look at the education budget. Let's figure out, because we do have to, that's got to be reined in somewhere. And I know each line item's got a very good rationale behind it generally, except maybe the sports revenue loss argument.
I haven't even seen, they might have taken it out for all I know. I haven't seen a new adjusted budget yet.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Fred, real quick, I have a hard stop. I think you
Sure.
still have quorum if I leave, so
Yep.
you guys are okay. I'll see you on Monday.
okay.
All right, if anything comes up, just email me.
All right, Joe.
All right,
All right,
thanks,
Joe.
everybody.
Yeah.
All right, Joe.
So Tom, do you think we could, I'm still on the fence. I don't know. And I'm thinking I might be more comfortable after I see the new budget for the school. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my view, is that
Okay.
let's look at it holistically and see whether, and maybe there's a trade we can work here somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
Yeah, I agree with
Right.
Tom.
all right. So we're going to hold that one until after the budget presentation on Monday from Silver Lake. And all right. So what's next on our list?
Fence.
So
Oh, we did the fence.
if I
Yeah.
could just interrupt for 1 minute, I'm going to email to you. Christine sent me in the FY22 assessment for the version 2 from Silver Lake. I just got it at 4:17, so I had already left for the day.
Yeah.
But I will send that to you too. It will give you an idea, but it's not the budget. It's just the assessment, I believe.
Yeah.
So I will email that to you.
Okay.
Do you have the percentage?
Is it still 5.8?
I believe that, yeah, I believe she has that in that. She explained it a little to me in the email. Let me just, I'm trying to get everyone on here. Let's see.
See, the problem with the schools, Tom, it's like a 5.9%, that's going to be their starting point next year. And our assessment actual rate goes up,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's kind of like,
our population's gone up.
right. So the next 2 to 3 years, our assessment's going to keep increasing. And if we let them get away with, 6% budget increase
In a pandemic year.
in a pandemic, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I get last year we had to pay extra stuff for, PPE and stuff like that. And I get it, but it's like literally we're back to normal and you're giving me a 6% or almost 6% budget increase. I just don't get it. All right. So we did the fencing at Vaughn Field. Where's the okay, so let's see, we have a bunch of hold for information like South Coast Country Legal Service.
I think we ran out of time. Didn't we?
Yeah.
I don't think this was because we started talking about South Coast County's legal service and we just tabled it.
If you could,
Yeah.
I think,
It was non-controversial.
I think Charlie said that they didn't have signatures yet on
if you
last
could
email.
table those two, I need to contact the agencies and see if there's interest in having the board of selectmen even sponsor the articles first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that brings us down to the next fun stuff, which is the document management, e-permitting, digitalization, and right after that, the asset management system. So this is A26, document management, e-permitting, digitalization in the amount of $32,000. So what's everybody's thoughts with regards to this?
I'm not sure I don't know, looking at it right now, what it's for. I think if we did skip it, that would reduce the burden that that we put on Caesar.
Yeah, you got to take that into consideration, what Caesar just said. So
Right.
it's, to me, it's like if you approve these, then we sort of have to approve
Prove
that,
him.
'cause you can't expect them to work, he can't work more than 25 hours. And if you're asking him to, so anybody else have any comments on this?
I think if we don't, we're gonna be the last town in the
That's
state,
my
in the
concern
state
too.
that's, I mean, it's dark ages doing this with paper. I mean, there's all kinds of risk. The efficiencies that we would pick up, I think, as a town in our ability to just manage the paperwork,
Would be easy.
pay for this 32,000 over and over
Right.
again. The work order system, I'm not sure we need that to manage our fixed assets so much, but the digitization, that to me is
Yeah.
like every town's got to do this, particularly, between COVID and domestic terrorism and all of that stuff. We just got to, this is a kind of a national security issue.
Yeah. Would we have, with the e-permitting, is that something that we can add into our existing website?
It would more than likely be, just as we do the online payments for a third party, the e-permitting would, from what I've seen, e-permitting would be done by a third party. In the sense of, you would click here to, do a wiring permit online, and it would bring you to that.
I just couldn't remember when we did the whole website talk. There was like one company had the different modules. I remember that was one of them. So, but I can't remember where we were with that.
Charlie, are there revenue offsets here?
For
e-permitting?
Yeah, I mean, just, is there a fee basis for, once it gets really fast, the demand's going to go up, I think, for this stuff, because it's not as hard to look.
In the sense of, we'd have to make, we can't discriminate. I wouldn't want to discriminate between a permit applied for online, especially if it's helpful to us to have.
Agree that. Yes, agree that.
So the only way to handle or generate revenue would be to increase the permits for everybody, which I don't think I've done for a while, mind you.
Yeah, so that's what I was kind of going for, was like, okay, if we're going to make this a more modern system, do we have it amortize itself?
Right.
By just putting, 50 cents more on every permit?
Yeah, I would have to talk to Rob and the board to get anything like that done.
Okay.
But it's not out of the question, Rob, Tom. It's theoretically possible. Well, I kind of agree with you that we are in the dark ages, and with COVID, and who knows when the next pandemic's going to come around, that it probably makes sense, at least to me, to do the digitalization. But again, Cheryl, do you have any opinion? I've got Drew's, I got Tom's.
Yeah, I think we should do it, but like you say, we're stuck in the dark ages.
All right then. So let's do let's see, would somebody like to make a recommendation for approval of A26 document management permitting digitalization in amount of $32,000?
Yes, so moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so we'll do a roll call vote, either yes or no. We'll start with Cheryl.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Drew? I'm gonna vote no. You have to vote no on some items. Just so
that's fine. And I'm a yes, so that's a 3-1 vote. So the next one is the work order asset management system for $24,000. So let's talk about that one. What's everybody's thoughts on that?
Do we really need it?
That's my first question. I almost wish I had more time, because I'm like, I could probably help them out, but what do you think, Tom?
I think it's a bit overpriced for what they're getting, and it's and I don't think we have a big enough, and Charlie, correct me on this, I don't think we have a big enough fixed asset pool for us to get a lot of leverage out of this. So if we had, if we got to make some choices, right now the only two things we've really pushed back hard on is the tennis court and maybe this.
Okay.
And the lighting, of course, which was just kind of
that's kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Drew, what's your feelings?
Yeah, I would push on it. I'm not sure my knowledge right now, I'm not sure what we need it for.
Okay,
That's my initial.
all right, so I'll make a motion so that we can do the roll call vote. Like somebody to make a motion for A27 work order asset management system in the amount of $24,000.
So moved.
And I have a
Second.
second? Okay, so let's do the roll call vote on this one. Again, yes is for it and no is against it. Cheryl,
No,
Tom,
No.
Drew,
No.
myself's a no as well, so that goes down 0 to 4, no. Okay. We've got the town hall handicap ramp and the parking lot repair, which are hold for information. Do we have dollar values for those yet?
I don't believe anything has come in since your last meeting.
Not yet, yeah.
Okay, and same for the COA van.
The Council on
we
Aging,
had good
van, we have
numbers.
the amount. Charlie, you looked into whether we could even get an electric vehicle or a hybrid?
Yeah,
And
I
there is
Andy,
nothing,
yeah, I
right?
read what you sent out. I guess, I mean, like, obviously Linda's told me before, so I'm trying to be like a better listener, like to recuse myself on these things. But do you think it's possible to get free charging stations? With National Grid?
Yeah, okay, we're gonna separate that out for a minute.
Mhm.
Council on Aging van. We checked the state contract. I think I did, I think Susan did, I think Sandy did, or checked either the contract itself or people who knew about the contract. We could not find a single hybrid or EV van of 15 passenger size. They've got 1,000 vehicles on that list. There are none that fit that description that are EV or hybrid. So we're gonna buy, for this year, we're gonna be buying a standard. The state is.
If I could jump in, they do make a Bluebird electric van. It's for schools.
Right.
So it might be bigger, but I think I've seen some electric vans that might be the right size.
It's got to be on the state contract list though, Drew.
And it has to be handicapped accessible.
Yeah.
There was a Mercedes van that, I don't know how many people it held, but it was not a handicapped van.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if there was one, then I would agree, try to go the electric, but at the same time, I'm not willing to sit there and say, well, let's wait a couple of years because they really need the van.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, they do.
Because again, it's more of a safety issue to me.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comment on the COA van before we go to a vote?
No, I support it.
All right, so then let's say 838, the COA van. Somebody like to make a motion on 838 COA van in the amount of $73,000.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, let's do a roll call vote then. Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
I would want to go inside and see the mileage. I don't dispute maybe it's needed. I am trying to like separate out my own interests from the environmental interests, but I do
Yep.
try to take a hard line on environmental things. So I do think an electric van would be a thing to push for, even if it requires a fast way to get charging stations quickly. That maybe is not going to benefit me financially or anything. I don't know. But I'm going to vote no, and I think the electric transportation is pretty important.
and I'll vote a yes, so that passes 3-1. Linda. Next, I think the rest don't have dollar values, right? So bring gas line to town hall. There's no dollar value. Purchase streetlights, no dollar value. And then the
We already
housing.
did.
What's that?
The computer one we did already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
The
is there
mezzanine.
anything, is there anything else? I don't see the resource officer on here.
I do, right at the bottom, middle
is it?
school.
Oh, middle school.
850.
Yeah. There
Hey,
it is.
They just added it. And
Ah,
just
yeah,
above
yeah.
that is unemployment
Yeah,
and
yeah.
employment fund.
So this is a little background. They asked for a middle school resource officer 2 years ago. We used to have one a long time ago, right, Charlie? And wasn't it like finance? We used to have resource officers all the time, and then because Kingston was responsible for the resource officer at the high school, and then that went away for a while, and then the resource officer came back, and then they wanted to expand the resource officer to the middle school.
Mhm.
Our argument was at the finance committee at the time was it should be in the operating budget because that way we get credit for it when you're looking at the, the state appropriations and that sort of stuff. They told us like, well, if you approve it, well, we can, see what we can do and all this other stuff. We did not approve it. And what ended up happening was Plimpton voted for it. So they had a part-time resource officers for a couple of hours based on the amount that Plimpton voted for. Then last year, this article came up again. We basically said the exact same thing. This is not the financing mechanism for this particular article. Again, going back to it should be in the operating budget. They said it couldn't be done. Finance committee basically said, no, we're not going to recommend it. It went to town floor, and this time it passed.
Yeah.
So here we are again, third year in a row as an article. And so again, it's $36,000. So let's see what everybody thinks.
No,
It just doesn't make sense as an article. I mean, I agree with
It
you.
doesn't.
I'm not, let's set the argument aside about the wisdom of having a resource officer in the middle school, which seems to make sense. But,
Yep.
but what, is this person unemployed in a year? Because this is a one-time payment we're doing here.
Yeah, the way it is, it's like they're taking a Kingston police officer and having him work overtime. So we're actually paying the overtime rate.
Mhm. Yeah,
No, it just, no, this isn't the, I mean, I agree with you, Fred, this just isn't the place for it.
Charlie, what's your feedback? Did I cover everything?
Yeah, you got it right. I've been in agreement with your position for the last couple of years. It really should be in the budget, not separated. Of course, their contention is that when Kingston gets all out of shape about it, both officers should be in there. If we're going to fund officers, they need to be in the budget.
I agree.
Right.
Both of them.
And I've looked at other towns. I think Berkeley funds it, or, I know there's other towns that figured it out and can fund it, through.
Do they fund it through the school budget or they fund it through the police department?
I don't know.
but they
Just curious.
don't ask for.
Maybe does Chief Chavez know typically
Can
what's done?
Yeah, can I
So we pay
interject?
the bill to the Kingston Police Department.
Yep.
Kingston Police Department bills Silver Lake. We pay our share to the Kingston Police Department.
Yeah. What's best practice though, Chief?
All right, so if I can interject, again, this has been going on for 2 years and many arguments back and forth. And I had reached out to the old Rochester Regional School System and the Freetown Lakeville School System. And it's one of them, it's funded through the budget of the school. The other is funded through the budget of the police department. The state law mandates that wherever the school is located, that department shall be responsible to have a school resource officer. If they can't afford it, then the state police may put someone there. For example, in Old Rochester, when my niece was going there, Mattapoisett, Old Rochester, I think Marion, I think are the three towns, couldn't afford it for what, it was those lean years. So actually a state trooper would visit the school at the high school. She'd go there a couple of days a week, spend some time at the middle school and at the high school. So I made my opinion clear on this. I wrote a letter into the superintendent. She was not very happy with it. And but I still, to this, still don't believe that I believe in in having the school resource officer there. I think I'd love to have our own school resource officer at the elementary school. We actually applied for a grant, which we didn't get, to fund a position for a school resource officer at the elementary school, because again, we're living in a dangerous world. The more, safety we can provide for our students, the better place, it'll be for them to be more comfortable in their learning environment. But, and we questioned at the hearings, I think Fred went to one of them, like the productivity of the high school officer. You know, and I even, you know, coming from a large city of New Bedford, we had three SROs at the our high school, and then we had one at every junior high school. They were busy, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, Silver Lake Regional is not have its issues or, you know, but, you know, to fund the officer, you know, it would be part-time or full-time, because, you know, because he's there, I think, 3 days out of the week. I think last year he was funded for 12 hours. I'm not sure what he's currently funded for now that, you know, everybody, all 3 towns put into it. So, I mean, I think ultimately if it goes to town meeting, it's going to pass again.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll let the finance committee, you know, make their own decision on that.
Yeah, it passed last year. It wasn't like an overwhelming, like everybody said yes. I mean, it passed by like 65%, something like that. So again, the year before it barely failed. So, you know.
But I mean, but I think there's a principle here that you outlined, Fred. I think Chief Evans has kind of supported that, right? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay our fair share for this, but the mechanism's all wrong here.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, again, if you want to argue, do we need it? I'll be sitting there saying, oh yeah, no
Right.
problem. You win me over in the argument. Again, it's just, I know, especially when our assessments are going to be going up a lot, we really need to get this in the budget so that we can, you know,
Right.
when you're looking at the state minimum contribution, you know, that all matters. So,
Yeah.
so
And you can't sustain it here.
no.
No.
can't.
Yeah.
Not in the one that's coming out of the capital plan.
Yeah, the
All
other
right.
thing too that I'm sorry, Fred.
Go ahead.
I just want to interject quickly. You know, with this whole police reform mandate that's been placed on, you know, in the police departments, and basically there's a move afoot to actually remove the police officers from the school. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't agree with it. I think it's a bad idea, but I know that Boston is looking at ways of actually disbanding their school police. They have a school police department that handles calls just in the school departments. I know that some other cities are approaching that, you know, that subject. So you know, it might go back to have the same response as the first year where it gets voted down, just because you might have, you know, members of our community that, you know, don't believe that the officers should be in the school for whatever reason. So I don't know, you know, it's one of those things.
So again, you know, part of me wants to say yes because it's needed, and part of me wants to say no because this isn't the, again,
Yeah.
you know,
Back
I
and
have
do it
the
right.
2 hats to wear. I have the parent hat with the student in school, and then I've got the finance committee. So it's literally my job right now is I'm wearing the finance committee hat. So
Agree, Fred.
yeah, when I get to town meeting, you know, I can stand up and say yes as a parent. That's a whole different thing. But so I don't know what I'll do, to tell you the truth. So does anybody have any more comment on that?
No.
All right. So let's go ahead. Does somebody want to make a motion for a 50 middle school resource officer in the amount of $36,000?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote, yes or no. Cheryl?
No.
Tom?
No.
Drew?
I'll go no.
And I'll say no as well. So that goes down 0-4. Did we get all the articles? Or is there anything else in the articles that we have to cover?
Do you want to make a vote on the article to fund $20,000 towards our unemployment fund?
Sure.
We currently, I'll speak to this. We currently have, I believe, about 19,000 in there. We have a bill from the state for over 14,000, but some of that is fraud that we have sent back to them, that these people are still working for us and they didn't put in those claims. The state is slowly going through all of that. They said we don't have to pay any of the bills until June, right, Linda? We think
June 30th.
Yeah,
is the
June
deadline.
30th. So we have decided, and some towns are paying them, but we're not paying them because it's very hard to get your money back from unemployment. So we're holding off and we're hoping that will go down. But I'm afraid of depleting the fund come June 30th and then not having money in
Yeah.
there. So that's why I'm asking for $20,000 more to be put in. A lot of times we put this on the special town meeting, we use money that might be left over in heating and oil or something on that idea. If it goes into the regular annual town meeting, then it would probably come out of free cash. So
So-
that's what I'm asking.
So is there a line number for that or?
Yeah, it's actually A49.
Oh,
It's
unemployment.
right
okay.
before the resource officer. It's one of the new.
20,000. Perfect, yeah. All right. Does anybody have any other questions with regards to that? All right, so let's just move on to that. Would somebody like to make a motion for A49 unemployment in the amount of $20,000?
So made, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, that roll call vote, yes or no? Cheryl?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Drew?
I don't really know. I was at the Massachusetts unemployment office in Brockton not that long ago because I'm such a job hopper, and I don't know if I sound like a bum being such a job hopper, but they were like shut down because of COVID. So like you couldn't talk to a person. But I don't know. I don't feel familiar with like how where our money's going. So I'll just vote no. Just I don't know. I don't like voting yes on things that I don't understand.
That's totally understandable. That's fine. And I'll vote a yes. So it's a 3-1 vote for approval of A49. Does that take care of the articles for now?
I believe it does.
Okay. And going back to the expenditure, what have we not covered other than schools? The data processing line,
That includes wages too, so I think that's
Yeah.
why you skipped
Right.
that one.
right?
Yep.
So we'd have to relook at that with regards to the requests that Caesar put in, right? Because that would even go up
Mhm.
more.
It would go up more.
I have that you voted everything else,
Okay,
except wages.
except for wages, yeah.
Wages, you did vote on some of them, like to just level for now.
Right,
So you did vote them. I want to correct that, but yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, so I had data processing still outstanding. I just want to just double check here. Obviously, the schools, which is next Monday. And I think that's about it, right?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, looks too big.
According to my notes, that would be correct.
So, what do people think about Caesar's request for hours?
Does he make 60? He makes like in the $60,000 ballpark right now.
No,
He's
No.
making about, so he's making about $24 an hour, $24.50.
Well, but if okay. I mean, the library budget, we have the one that we approved, the total allocated municipal income as a state regulated thing, and then we have what people actually make, which is much less than that. Jean explained it to me. That's so I don't like I was talking with my dad recently, like income inequality in the world. I think my dad and I agreed with this is worse than it's ever been. Like there's more billionaires and more people sort of stuck in the minimum wage level.
I'll tell you, he's from somebody whose salary and just had to work 100 hours a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I can feel for the guy, and he can't work over the 25 hours. So,
Those contractors.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't. Again, we don't have to vote on it tonight, but I'd be kind of curious to see what the numbers would be if we like went up, 5 or 10 or even the whole way, just to see how the numbers fit. Because we're going to have to come back after the schools and say, all right, this is what we got left, and we're going to have to prioritize.
Right.
So it would be nice to know. Okay.
I'll break it down for you. I'll say,
Okay.
I'll break it down. I believe he did do a sheet that showed what his wage was, but I'll break it down. This much is for licensing and this much is for Caesar's wage and
Yeah.
and that. And I'll like I said, I think he did do something on that idea. The one I had seen though hadn't been approved by Charlie yet, so. And Charlie being the department head, I want to just clear everything through him first.
Yeah. So what we really have left is the schools, and then after that, we're going to circle back and say what do we have left and what are our priorities. So maybe if everybody could put a list together of what they think our priorities should be after the schools, where whatever money we have left should go. In other words, do you think it should be Caesar first, police first, Scott, all that, every person has come in with a budget increase. If you could just prioritize what you think is the most important things, that way after we, figure out what we have left, we can make a consensus and say, okay, I think this is number one and you think that's number two. We can rank them and see what, to me, that seems like the most equitable, almost like ranked choice voting kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people can, think about that with regards to next Monday, so that we can, start looking into, because, as soon as the schools are done, we don't have a whole lot of time left. We've only got the Wednesday after and then the Monday. So I'd like to try to wrap
Sure.
up everything by Wednesday, and then fallout, anything that just fell through the cracks or still waiting for information, we can wrap up on Monday the 1st. All right. The only other thing.
Do you think we'd have a, oh, go ahead, Fred, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So the only other thing is no, go ahead, Tom, because I'm thinking of something else. Go ahead, finish.
I'm just curious if we think we're going to have a restacked public works budget. It was teasing out like 3 different GL lines that Scott and Steve were talking about. So it'd be great to see, we're going to take, they've got a 2% increase now, and then there was another 11,000 or so that Scott was asking for. And then we couldn't quite get what the real increase was from what Steve needed. So I'm just curious if we'll get a restack, because I think that'll be material to doing this prioritization.
Yeah. The other thing that would be interesting to know, again, is a lot of you are new, so you don't necessarily know what passed last year. And some of the articles that passed last year can affect his budget. So, when you things like you add in the crosswalks, well, now you've got a maintenance for the batteries and stuff like that. And we never really take that stuff into consideration.
Yeah. $900 for a battery. Jeez.
Right. So it's like, well, we're sitting over here saying, oh, it's with free cash and sure, we can pay for it. But then the maintenance comment, it's got to come out of the general operating budget.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of stuff we have to think about. It's not only what you're voting for now, how is that going to affect the budget on the operating side?
Right.
So that's the other thing. It's kind of like maybe we could, maybe you could go back and take a look at what passed last year just to see, okay, how does that affect, the maintenance budgets because of this or because of that sort of thing. So, because again, I don't want to short them. I mean, it's not, I think it's unrealistic to sit there and say, oh yeah, we passed that article, but you've now got to somehow come up with $1,000.
Unfunded, yeah, it's basically an unfunded mandate, right?
Right, yeah, and I don't like those. So,
no.
So again, if those come up, then to me that goes higher on my priority list than some other things. So, the only other thought I had was with regards to the correspondence we got back from the lawyers. Again, I don't know if everybody's had time to read through that. That was a lot of information.
I haven't.
Yeah, so I'd like to get that on the budget. I know I don't want to go like way too long next week, but we really do need to talk about it, and I really need to go into it. I mean, I read through one of them, and there are a lot of good points that are in there, stuff that I've been saying for a long time. But I just wanted to get your feedback, what you were feeling with regards. Again, this was a mandate passed last year,
Right.
$65,000 to redo the zoning bylaws. So again, do you feel like this is the time to do it with the COVID going on, or are we getting bang for the buck, that sort of stuff? So, we don't have to talk about it tonight, but it's just, if you want to start thinking about that so we can have a more lengthier conversation. And we
Is
can
it-
make sure that Linda gets that on the agenda for next Monday to have a conversation.
Is it funded, Fred, already?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yep.
Okay, so it's already in the budget. It's,
yeah.
makes
Yep.
sense.
But again, if they're coming back and saying, we can do 3 zoning laws, that's what I'm saying. What's the return on investment? That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
If they're saying, hey, we can do the whole thing for $65,000, sign me up. But if
Mhm.
they're going to come back and say, we could tackle like these 3,
Right, then it's not worth it.
I don't know. Well, it depends on what they are. I see
Right.
multifamily developments on there, and that's going to cause a stir because that one's been, the
Yeah.
multifamily development zoning bylaws have been a mess, and it's been contentious. And,
Yep.
this town has this thing. I mean, like Charlie's got he puts out there, like, we have to change this, a bylaw with regards to flooding zones, to new parcels. And it's like, people are like, am I flooding church? They just go ballistic. And really all we're doing here is just corresponding to, like, federal law, like
Right.
updating definitions and stuff. So, this stuff is, bylaws are funny in this town. They just get really antsy about that. But again, everything, when I read it, they talked about stuff like, putting all the definitions in one section. That's part of our problem. I read through it, and I've talked to some people. I'm like, oh, what's the definition of a lot? Because depends on where you go. I can give you 2 different definitions.
Mhm.
Fred, do you want it on for Monday, or do you all want to push it off where you're not on the same timeline where you have to get it done?
Yeah,
Right.
let's push that off till Wednesday.
Okay.
Let's focus on the budgetary stuff first.
That's cool.
And if we don't, and then we can make a call on Monday. If we still have too much to do, we can, again, it's not a budgetary thing. It doesn't have to be done by the budget. But I don't want it to get too long, because if we're not going to do it, I want to get back to the
Firms.
people that submitted the proposal.
Right.
Say, yeah, we're not going to proceed. So,
Okay.
Okay.
all right. Does anybody have anything else that they want to cover tonight?
Could I just ask a question? Just because I think as we think about, we're gonna be sharpening our pencils on this next round, right? And
Oh yeah.
so as I go through the budget, I know we already voted on it, but can somebody remind me, why did we vote a 12.5% wage increase for the police department? Is it an add to staff? I'm not challenging it. I just can't remember why. And it's the biggest number on the sheet.
Do you know what line number it was?
Yeah,
Oh, the police wages.
Police wages, yeah.
45.
Did we vote it?
No, we voted we voted
The level.
1206, 220. We didn't vote the full 12.5%.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you didn't
Okay.
vote that, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at that thinking, we're gonna have to explain that at town, and we better
Yeah,
get.
no,
I think the 12.5% included the lieutenant's position, but you didn't vote
Yeah.
that. You voted on.
Okay, I thought there
We
was an
haven't
add to
voted on that.
staff in there.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, thank you.
that's sort of the stuff we have to think about after the schools,
Right.
and try to wrap that stuff up on Wednesday and Mondays, Again, that's where it's gonna get tough. You're
Yeah.
gonna come back and say, we have let's say $100,000. Where's it gonna go?
What
Yes,
I'll
you
try to do is a revenue comparison as well, and Charlie and I will talk about the revenues. See if there's any places that we feel that we can increase our revenue estimate
Okay,
to give us a little more play. The school, I sent you all the Silver Lake assessment. It came down 51,000, but it was up like 270 something thousand. So we're still talking about quite an increase, which would totally eat up everything that
we have.
we've saved so far. So it's not going to help us much at this point.
Yeah, because again, we voted to keep the $300,000 buffer. And so again, we can go in and vote a different number than what the schools give us and say, but what'll happen, like for instance, in the past, we've gone and said, okay, the HES budget, the finance committee thinks that we can support this amount. but this is what's going to happen. The first thing, we'll say Article 4, and it'll go through this, and Gordon will make a motion to return the amount back to the recommended amount. So it'll go to a floor vote. But then again, the way I look at it is if they want to vote to go into that buffer, that's their call.
Hmm.
You know, I'll sit there and make the argument, we shouldn't do this. We have this buffer, you know, for a reason, but you know,
You
at
done
the end of the day, it's the taxpayers.
Sure.
I'm not going to plan on going into that number. If they want to override a number that we give and go into that, well, that's a mistake on my part because
But it's their
that's
call.
the starting point for next year.
Yeah.
And you could have to lay off people if you do that next year. They need to know these things,
Yeah.
Right.
and I don't think they understand that.
Yeah. You know, you hear like people complaining about, you know, the roads and the water and everything else like that. And yet, you know, 54% of your budget is schools.
Yeah.
It gets handicapped really
Mhm.
quick.
Right. Right.
All right. So, anybody else have anything else that they want to bring up? Or it's been a very long meeting. But we can talk. You know, I'm free. So, all right then. Then let's see. Do we have any public participation? Don't want to forget that, just in case somebody snuck on and wanted to talk about something.
We
All
wore
right.
them out.
All right. So our calendar has us meeting next Monday, next Wednesday.
Mhm.
And barring no other discussion, if somebody would like to make a motion to end tonight's meeting at 7:48 p.m.
So moved.
I have a second. All
Second.
right, let's do a roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Everybody, you have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you next Monday.
Okay.
Thank you
See
all.
you then.
Thank you
Thank
very
Good
much.
night.
Bye-bye.